Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire took a big leap from the Generation 2 games. They introduced new features like abilities, natures, and double battles. Along with all that, Generation 3 presented 135 new Pokemon, 103 new moves, and a variety of new items that I'm too lazy to count in order to get the exact number. Now, if you're confused on how I'm going to stay up to date with a game that has been out for 19 years, then I recommend watching the video that I made on Pokemon Gold and Silver a couple weeks ago. But basically, we're going to time travel back to that era and act like Trico, Blaziken, and the Shelbo are a part of the latest and greatest Pokemon, moves, and items. However, there is one exception in terms of the items. I will be allowed to use any sort of Pokeballs and potions, as without those, I wouldn't be able to catch many Pokemon, and this challenge would be near impossible. If you are still a little confused, then don't worry, I'm sure it'll make more sense as we get into the game. Anyways, without further ado, let's hop right into it. Because I didn't want to make the start of the game too easy, I chose to replace Mudkip with a Lotad that already knew Astonish, which is a very weak Ghost-type move introduced in Generation 3. Anyways, I nearly lost to the Wild Poochyena since Astonish was hardly doing any damage every turn. Back at Professor Birch's lab, I named Lotad John, because I am horrible at coming up with nicknames. The first battle against May was yet another close call, despite John being 2 levels higher. Wow, I did not realize Astonish was this bad. On Route 102, we already ran into a problem against the very first youngster. You see, we only have Astonish, and this youngster has a Zigzagoon. If I'm not mistaken, this is a mandatory battle, so what the heck do I do? Well, I decided to get John to level 13, which is where he learns Nature Power. This is definitely an interesting move, as Nature Power will use other moves depending on the environment. For example, in the battle versus this youngster, Nature Power turned into Swift. Even though Swift wasn't new to Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire, Nature Power was, so I am counting this as a usable move for this challenge. After watching a pathetic noob teach me how to catch a Pokemon, because I totally don't know how to do that, it was finally time to catch my next team member over in the Rusterf Tunnel. Whismur is a nice addition to the team, as it already knows Uproar, and it gets some interesting moves later on. By the way, I called it Silence, because that is the complete opposite of this evolution line. It's safe to say that I'm gonna need to grind a lot in order to beat Roxanne. Even with a few howls from Silence, Astonish and Uproar barely touch Geodude. It doesn't get much better when Lombre comes in, as his Astonishes are doing about the same damage. It wasn't until I got both Mons to level 20 that I realized I could get the TM for Bullet Seed and teach it to John. I am officially an idiot, and I apologize if you were already screaming at me in the comments section. Of course, with the addition of this move, Geodude and Nosepass went down without any problems. Inside the Granite Cave, I caught myself a Makuhita. It gets access to a lot of good stab moves, as well as some nice TMs. Also, I nicknamed it Matt. You might think this is another generic name, because I couldn't think of anything else, but this is actually in reference to the legendary boxer in Wii Sports, Matt. I wasn't expecting too much of a challenge going into the Brawly fight. However, I guess I underestimated his Machop. he was able to kill Loudred and Makuhita as Brawly kept on using super potions. John managed to finish the job and also take down Makuhita with the help of some good RNG from Bullet Seed. By the way, check out this cool glitch in the Doofer Gym. You can read the certified trainers list on the wall behind the statue. I guarantee there's someone watching this video that didn't know about this. In Slateport City, we got to witness Archie call his grunts simps. Well, joke's on you, Archie. Those grunts probably don't even have a girlfriend. Anyways, there were a few rival battles coming up, starting with May. She was really easy to defeat, as all 3 of her team members went down in 2 or 3 turns. Then it was time to crush Wally's hopes and dreams by one-shotting his Ralts. Usually, I have trouble with Watson in challenge runs, but man did it feel good to beat him on our very first try. All it took was one bulk up from Matt, and arm thrust did the rest. I'll admit, I got very lucky by never getting fully paralyzed, and also never hitting myself in confusion. But as I said, I think I deserve it, after all the issues I've had with Watson in the past. On Route 114, I hauled in a Sapphire that I named Fangs because it sounds cool. Sapphire only gets Poison Tail and Poison Fang as viable moves, but they are stab, and I think it makes Fangs pretty useful. The first fight against Archie was a bit harder than I thought it would be. Sapphire couldn't do much to Mightyena, so Hariyama had to get the job done. With my amazing luck, I missed 2 rock tombs on Golbat, so I had to switch over to Silence in order to kill him with Uproar. Last out was Sharpedo, who got taken down by some puny seeds. The Flannery battle was going smoothly, as both of her Slugmas got knocked out by some Poison Tails, but then Torkoal ruined all the fun. I had some more terrible luck with the Rock Tomb, so Matt went down to an overheat. Even with the special attack drop, Torkoal was still able to dish out a lot of damage, to the point where the rest of my team died. To be fair, I would have won if Flannery didn't have a Hyper Potion. This was proven in the very next attempt, as Matt easily took down Torkoal. If I'm gonna be honest, I did not deserve to beat Norman. My team was a little underleveled, and didn't match up well against his powerful slackings. Yet somehow, Hariyama killed all 3 of his Pokemon. Now, did it come at the cost of losing the rest of my team members? Yeah, but it was worth it. Also, Norman's 3rd slacking could have easily finished me off, but he decided to go for Focus Punch instead. Once again, I should not have won this fight. After picking up a worthless cast form from the Weather Institute, it was time for another May battle. It probably wasn't a good idea to keep Fangs in against Numel, as he barely hung on from a magnitude 10. Due to this, John had to come in for the kill. It was then up to Loudred and Hariyama, who had no issues taking down Grovyle and Wailmer. The start of the Winona battle was just a hint at what was to come. I missed 2 Poison Fangs and 1 Rock Tomb before finally killing Swellow. However, Skarmory completely walls my team. Rock Tomb is the best I can do against it, and that's not saying much. Because Winona used a Hyper Potion, the rest of my team was toast. I really don't know if I can defeat her right now. Apparently, that's not the case, as on attempt number 2, Winona elected to send out Altaria, who got knocked out by Rock Tomb. I then set up 3 Howls with Silence, so 1 Uproar took down Skarmory. Pelipper was out last, and I'm not sure if I needed the critical hit, but I don't care. I'll take it. The underwhelming final battle with Mei was, well, underwhelming. Hariyama took care of Swellow, Nummel, and Whalmer before Seviper won the fight with a Poison Tail. At this point, I felt like I needed another team member. So, I entered the Shoal Cave, caught a Spheal, and called it Tusk, in order to sort of go along with Fangs, our Seviper. Even though we already have a water type, Spheal is also part ice, which gives it access to some pretty decent ice type moves. Not to mention, I'll probably teach it Dive or Water Pulse, because Alambre doesn't even have a water type move. Tate and Liza were more or less a pushover. I decided to target Lunatone first, and that worked out well, as John and Silence killed it easily. Solrock finished off Exploud before I sent in Tusk, who is now a Celio, and threw some balls of ice until Solrock went down. In order to save the world, I had to defeat the idiot that thought the red orb would work on the blue Pokemon. Archie's Mightyena used Swagger, which allowed Silence to pummel it. Crobat finished me off, but Celio cruised through the rest of the fight with Ice Ball. As we're taking down Kyogre, I find this a good time to mention that I'm not allowing myself to use legendaries in this challenge, as that would be pretty cheap. Wallace's team wasn't challenging at all. Lovedisc, Whiscash, and Celio all died to a few hits from Tusk, John, and Matt respectively. Seaking managed to kill Hariyama, so Exploud came in to avenge him. Last out was Milotic, but all it took was one Howl and 2 Facades to win the battle. Whoa there, Wally. I thought you were done after Mauville City. Looks like I'll have to destroy your dreams once again. Altaria and Roselia couldn't handle the cold from Walrein. Matt dealt with Magneton and Delcatty, while Silence killed Gardevoir. Because I still had 5 Mons on my team, I decided to go all the way back to Route 104 and catch myself a Taillow. I don't have a flying type, and Taillow gets some useful moves like Endeavor and Aerial Ace. By the way, I named it Beak Boy, because it's the end of the game, and I'm really not trying with these nicknames anymore. After doing a bit of grinding, here's a look at the team. My levels are all over the place, as my more powerful Pokemon are at level 53, while my weaker members are in the mid-40s. And then there's Beak Boy, who's just chilling at level 37. I highly doubt that I'm going to win with this team, but I think we can at least make it past Sydney or even Phoebe. I wasn't wrong about defeating Sydney, as I really had no issues with him. Due to a critical shockwave, Mightyena went down. Fangs knocked out Cacturne before dying to an extra sensory from Shiftry. But after that, Walrein's Ice Ball was too strong for Sydney's last 3 team members. Surprisingly, Phoebe only took 2 tries to defeat. John did some good damage to her first Dusclops, before Silence had to clean up with Overheat. Beak Boy would have been able to kill the first Banette if she didn't use a Spite, causing all of my Aerial Ace PP to run out. Tusk proceeded to kill the Banette, Sableye, and Phoebe's second Banette, as I got very lucky with Confusion from Water Pulse. Walrein kept his kill streak going by winning the fight with a couple of Ice Balls. Glacia was by far the hardest Elite Four member up to this point, as it took about 10 to 15 attempts until I won. I got Glacia to waste one of her full restores on her first Glalie, since Exploud landed a critical facade. She then went down to a shockwave and overheat. Matt almost took down both Celios, but the second one managed to hang on and kill Hariyama with a blizzard. This allowed Viper to get the job done before I sent in Swellow, only to get off an Endeavor on her second Glalie. Silence once again melted her with an overheat before it took the entire rest of my team to kill Walrein. I can't tell you how many times I lost an attempt due to that stupid walrus. The Drake fight started off easily as Matt crushed his Shelgon after I used a few bulk ups. Exploud then went beast mode by single-handedly killing both Flygons and Altaria with just Facade. Salamence was out last, and because of his 4 times weakness to ice, it didn't take long for Walrein to get the job done. Finally, it was time for Steven, the champion. Skarmory went down to a shockwave and overheat, so Armaldo was out next. John did a good bit of damage with the dive before Tusk had to come in for the kill. I stayed in with Walrein against Claydol, which gave me a great chance to set up Ice Balls. Eventually, Claydol went down, and Cradilly got one shot. Hariyama easily dealt with Aggron, so last out was Metagross. I confused it with a Water Pulse before paralyzing it with Secret Power. Unfortunately, none of that mattered, as Steven used a full restore. I then threw the rest of my team at Metagross until one overheat from Exploud made us the new champions of the Hoenn region. Honestly, I was really surprised at how simple the Elite Four was, minus Glacia, of course. Anyways, we are now caught up to date in Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire, because that totally makes sense. I think this challenge was slightly easier than Pokemon Gold and Silver, but there were definitely still some tough moments. You guys seem to be enjoying these videos, so you can guarantee that I'll be doing this for Pokemon Diamond and Pearl next. I've also done some other unique challenge runs here on the channel, so be sure to check out those if you enjoyed this one. By the way, what is going on here? 62% of you guys aren't subscribed? Just hit that red button, man. It's free, and it only takes a second. Anyways, have a great rest of your day, and until next time, deuces!